Hello and welcome to Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. I am Mark Dog Hoffmeyer.
And I am J. something Latinish Cluett. And today we are continuing our delve into Deep Blue Sea adjacent films as part of my education in movie watching by branching in a different direction. We've done The Shallows, we've done The Abyss, two very much aquatic films. Now we're looking at the most aquatic film that Renny Harlin directed that wasn't Deep Blue Sea. We're looking at Cutthroat Island this week. What is Cutthroat Island? I discovered this morning what Cutthroat Island is. It's a film. It's made in 1995. It stars Geena Davis, Matthew Modine, and Frank Langella. Geena Davis is Morgan Adams, the daughter of a pirate captain who is killed. He's the brother of two other pirates, and they all have a third of a map that leads to treasure on Cutthroat Island. And so she sets out to get the piece of the map and head there. One of the uncles is Frank Langella. Dog is his name.
So good. So imposing and great. Oh.
And
so
along the way, she falls in with William Shaw, played by Matthew Modine, who is a kind of petty thief, and helps him out. Now, we need someone to help us out with this, and this is a swashbuckling film. So I think, Mark, it'd be great if we had a sword expert on to us talk about Cutthroat Island. So who is joining us today?
Oh, a sword expert.
A sword expert.
Jeanette,
I don't know if you know this about our guest.
Jeanette, you're a sword expert?
I am.
So we have Jeanette Ward. Welcome back. Third time guest, I believe.
Yes, she is.
Yes.
So happy to have you back. But that's a sword expert. I got to hear more about this.
Yes. Well, if you didn't see the video that I posted last week, in our most recent belly dance show, I certainly did a double sword number with my troopmate Emily, and it came out great, and I'm very happy with it.
Whoa.
So you know what I'll do? Send you the link. You can go ahead and attach it to this podcast.
Oh, we absolutely will.
For sure. I'll when you go to, if you go to what? I'll put it with the article. So on Movies, Films, and Flicks, I post this every week, and when I share it, I'll include the video on there so people can watch it. And I'll just tell people to follow you on Twitter. Then I'll be like, go to her Twitter, and you can see all the cool videos and stuff.
Yes. So yeah, sword experts. Listen, I occasionally dance with a sword. Expert might be higher praise.
So you mentioned a double sword dance. Is that two people, two swords, or were you dancing with two swords yourself?
That's a good question. I've done two swords by myself, but this particular number was two people with two swords, so a total of 4 swords.
Because at the end,
Wow.
in the climax of Cutthroat Island, Geena Davis is fighting with two swords. She has a long sword and a small sword that just wonderfully springs open to reveal itself to be a trident and is never used again, but is delightful in that one moment.
Yeah. No, I will admit that both of my swords are exactly the same so that they balance perfectly,
Okay.
which is key when dancing with them on your head.
Have you watched Steel Dawn?
No, should I?
It's a Patrick Swayze movie. It's sort of Mad Max-esque, where he's in the desert.
Wait, just to make sure, he was also in Red Dawn.
Yeah, Steel Dawn. I think that Wait.
He did 2 Dawn films.
We're not talking about Red Scorpion, right? With
Steel Dawn. Steel Dawn, 1987 film with Patrick Swayze.
Wow, all right. What are the
And
odds?
he didn't have much time to train, so they just used his dancing ability. So a lot of his sword fights, it's essentially him dancing with a sword. Like it's very dance-esque sword fighting.
I'm making a note of this right now.
And I also think Steel Dawn features my favorite. Well, this movie has some of my favorite cinematic punches because I love the like effects that are used. But in Steel Dawn, he's fighting these Tusken Raider type creatures that crawl in the sand, and it looks like one of them just blasts him right in the face. Like it looked like a real punch that they had. But it's one of my favorite movie punches of all time in Steel Dawn.
I love it.
Patrick Swayze gets punched by a
Steel Dawn.
Tusken Raider.
He made Red Dawn, Steel Dawn, Dawny Darko,
Donnie Darko. He was in the band PM Dawn.
Dirty Dancing.
Whoa. That's a Jessie J song. She's like talking about dirty dancing in the moonlight.
Jessie J.
Domino.
My goodness, we're a few minutes in and we got a Jessie J reference. This is fantastic. I'm already on it.
I remember listening to that song, and then she's like, dirty dancing in the moonlight. I'm like, what? What's happening here?
Well, where else do you dirty dance? I thought you could only do it in the moonlight.
Yeah, I guess dirty dancing during daytime hours.
It's much less dirty.
Yeah, it just seems like a little sad, maybe.
Smudgy dancing.
It's like spring break.
Dusty dancing.
Yeah, dusty in the desert.
There must have been a cowboy called Dusty Dancing. I think.
Oh,
That had to have been.
Hold me closer, Dusty Dancer. Oh man,
It's gonna be a loose show today, guys.
So I just want to share. I was doing some research about Cutthroat Island, and they were talking to Matthew Modine, and Matthew Modine says that a lot of people come up to him, and they're like, "Oh man, you were in Cutthroat Island. That movie was a bomb." And then Modine goes, "Have you watched it?"
Yeah.
And then the person goes, "Well, no, I haven't watched it."
There you go.
Yeah. And then he's like, "Watch it." He's like, "It's really fun."
It's really fun.
I just love this story though, because the narrative about this movie has been set, and I think when people watch it, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna watch the biggest bomb of all time." And there's more reasons why this is the biggest bomb of all time. I mean, it was released in December '95 against Jumanji, like Toy Story, Heat. I mean, the amount of movies that it was up Sense and Sensibility, like the amount of movies that were out in the theaters when this came out, just buried it, and it's just so much fun. But I think people think that they should watch it ironically when this is there's a good villain, there's a fun supporting cast.
There's a great villain.
There's like the supporting cast of that Snellgrave guy who has the chain for the hand. What a cool little gimmick. And then he gets dragged to the bottom, and it's just fun. And I get the excess of it, but there are scenes where you are just, they filmed in Malta and Thailand, where the beach was filmed actually. And I love when they're on top of the boats. Like they had to get a crane up there. Like there's just so much scope, and everything is just so, I don't know.
This movie is a blast to watch. I remember seeing this in the theater in '95, so I would have been like a year out of high school. But it's so big, it's so fun, and it does not pretend to be more than it is, which I've said this before, and I appreciate when a movie is like, we're not trying to win Oscars, we're just out here to have a good time. The other thing that I love, and I will say this for the rest of time, have as big a budget as you want. Let me see every single penny on screen. If you have a giant budget and I don't see it on screen, then you are wasting my time. Like if you spend all your money on an actor instead of on set pieces. Set pieces. Yeah. To quote Alexi Lawless, which is a different type of set piece, but still it applies. I want to see all the money on the screen, and this movie puts all the money on the screen, sometimes unnecessarily so. But it's gorgeous. It's big. The settings are incredible. The costumes are great. The action, it's wonderful. It's so much fun, and I think you're absolutely right, Mark, when you say the narrative was set in place, and it was almost before it came out, like, oh, this movie is terrible, and so many people went in being like, oh, it's terrible. And as you said, so many people say that now, oh, it's terrible, without having seen it or maybe going back and watching it and just appreciating it for a giant piece of popcorn fluff, which is what it's meant to be and what I find so entertaining. And if you watch it now, then go back and watch Pirates of the Caribbean, which it was said this movie killed, air quotes, the pirate genre until Curse of the Black Pearl came out and, air quotes, reinvigorated it. Is there...
But you know what's weird, though? There wasn't really a pirate genre.
Right.
So it's like... it was
a park
like,
ride.
Came out, this is an MCU film, and then it kills the comic book movie, right?
Exactly,
but
right.
This killed the pirate film. Well, how many pirate films were there in the 90s? And then someone goes, well... That's like another thing, that narrative has been set. This killed the pirate genre. Well, what genre was it?
I mean, unless you loop it in with like the sword and sandal genre, which that's kind of a stretch. So I don't know. I really, it deserves to be reappreciated. It maybe go back. And if you watch it now, certainly you can see pieces of it where you're like, well, I see that Pirates of the Caribbean, well, while being solidly founded on an amusement park ride, also drew some from this.
Oh, absolutely. And how much could it have killed a genre when the following year Muppet Treasure Island comes out?
Right?
Oh,
another pirate film. A better pirate film, certainly. But it's
And also, Geena Davis gets a superhero landing.
Let's talk about Geena Davis for a second.
Yes.
She does a flip and does a Black Widow landing in 95.
Are you referring to Olympic archery level archer?
In like Boston, like high level school,
like just member.
Exactly, wildly smart, like Olympic level archer.
The best.
The best.
6'1".
League of Their Own. I read a very mean piece by the Independent where they were talking about how Carolico got financing for this, and to be fair, like, this movie went through a lot of issues too. Like, so Carolico, this was their last movie before they went under, and they got about $50 million from foreign investors, and so they needed to start shooting. But the problem was they didn't really have a finished script, and then Michael Douglas left because he wanted to have more of an equal role with Geena Davis. He didn't want the Modine role. He wanted 55 to her 45%. And Renny Harlin said no, so then he left. And then they didn't really have any big names.
He wanted Romancing the Stone.
Exactly. You know what's funny? I was going to say that, and then you nailed it. You, like, read my mind. And then Harlin was so busy looking for another actor that they started building sets before Harlin even came out there. And then their DP broke his foot 2 weeks into filming that he had been working with Harlin for years. He breaks his foot. And it's just, this movie was sort of cursed, and it really rushed into production. But I don't know, but that was the narrative. Like, you read a lot of articles about it, and that's what everyone talks about. They don't talk about how beautifully unpretentious and earnest it is, and that there's a great monkey in it. Like, sold to the lady with the monkey. Like, what a beautiful line.
She's trying to blend in, not as a pirate, and she has a monkey on her shoulder.
Well, didn't they say they were terrible at it?
Yes.
Terrible at blending in. I also, we're going to get deeper into this, but the line, do you practice a profession, or are you a man of leisure? Like, I'd like to use that more often in conversation.
Yeah. I wish I could say that. No, I'm just a man of leisure.
Man of leisure. Superhero landing. Let's talk about the action. My goodness.
And there are fight scenes in this movie. Mitch Hedberg has a joke where he talks about his jokes, and then he clogs up the mic cable, and then he lets it go, and a whole bunch of jokes come out at once. This has been me with Cutthroat Island for years, so I'm sorry if I'm talking a lot. I know I am, and I'll calm down. But it's just, like, there's moments where Geena Davis knows, like, 6 pieces of like, choreography. This isn't edited into oblivion, and you see her sword fighting, and that's a Renny Harlin staple. Like, Jay and I learned that on Deep Blue Sea. Like, he wants his actors in the action.
Yeah.
I actually read the same piece from the Independent where they're like, she's not athletic enough to be any good. And I was like, man, this is mean.
If I was wearing a hat, that comment would make me take off my hat and throw it down on the ground in anger. Outrageous. And this is, again, everything I've learned about action, I learned from Wesley Snipes. Action sequences, hand-to-hand fight combat, please pull the camera back, shoot the whole thing on a master. If you have your actors going through stunt training, please let me see them perform the stunts and the combat training. Let me see the fight from beginning to end. I'm not interested in you taking the camera and shoving it inside the fight, Paul Greengrass. I don't need to feel like I'm there. I'm not interested in pretending
I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
Please,
it's a fight.
Pull the camera back, spend more money on steady cams and tripods. Let me just watch the fight sequence from beginning to end. Also, Paul W.S. Anderson with the first Mortal Kombat.
Yes, Mortal Kombat, the final fight, yes.
Pull the camera back. Let me watch the whole thing start to finish. Blade 2 with, hey, Guillermo del Toro, you going to argue with him about this? No. This movie does that. You get to see these fight sequences from a distance. You get to see the whole thing. And then when the actor is in it, you can be like, I think that's really the actor because I'm watching the whole thing start to finish, and it's not edited and cut 1,000 times.
Amen.
Sorry, action rant.
I kept saying that to my wife, Megan. I kept going, that's them on the chariot. Matthew Modine, not chariot, carriage. Like, that'd be interesting, a chariot. I was like, Matthew Modine is, like, when she was on top fighting, he's the one driving it. Like, steering it. I don't know if you drive a carriage, but he's what do you call that? Do you drive a carriage? What's the word for that?
How do you locomote a carriage?
Yeah.
Well, someone has to drive it, and then someone rides in it. So I guess you do both.
But
I guess he's steering it?
Yeah, because it's the horses are pulling it.
Yeah.
You're not riding the horse, you're...
I mean, but that sequence...
But he was on it. He was on it.
Yes.
Like, and those explosions that were happening, there's a wide shot where 3 random explosions break out.